Ladies and gentlemen, I have found what is quite possibly the most insane mate in one move in all of Chinese chess. And I don't think even Magnus Carlsen can solve this. A mate in one, you say? Those aren't inherently complicated. Why is this one special? Well, let me show you. And we're going to see 3 reasons why Magnus couldn't solve this. So if this is truly a mate in one, we need to look for ways where we can put the general in check in one move. So let's first take a look at our cannons. This is a very unique piece to Chinese chess. It moves exactly like a rook, but in order to capture, it has to hop over one and only one piece. So for example, this cannon is currently targeting this horse because there's only one piece in between. If that piece were to move out of the way, the horse would no longer be a target. So we could think about lining up our cannons, pointing at the general, but there's no pieces in between, so that wouldn't be putting the general in check. We could also think about lining up a classic double cannon configuration to target the general. But unfortunately, that's going to take 2 moves, and our opponent is going to anticipate that, moving their horse out here to counteract the attack. So neither of our cannons can put the general in check in one move. And just like in Western chess, our general, the equivalent of the king, can't put the other general in check. So that only leaves this horse to move around. Now, a beginner might blunder this, bringing their horse down here thinking, I got the general! Unfortunately, their horse is just going to get captured by the opponent's horse. End of that storyline. Now, Magnus might briefly consider moving his horse back here to put the general in check, but then disregard that move, thinking, oh, the general can just move out of the way. That's clearly not the mate in one solution. However, that's not true, so let's teach Magnus one of the rules of Chinese chess that is unique to Chinese chess. And that's known as the flying general rule. So in Chinese chess, it is forbidden for the generals to have an open file between them. The idea is that if one of the generals were to move into a file with an unobstructed line of sight to the other general would fly across the board, capturing its opponent, game over. And the idea behind this move goes way back into ancient Chinese military history, where if there was ever a situation where the battlefield had an unobstructed line of sight between the 2 generals, that is considered an absolute, utter tactical failure, and thus it is not allowed. So, now that Magnus knows that sure seems like the solution, doesn't it? Bring the horse back here, put the general in check, general can't escape because of the flying general, right? Now hold on, Magnus, there's something else you don't know. And that's, as famously put to you, how do knights move?
Magnus, I bet you're really tired of getting a lot of really complicated chess questions, but I've been dying to ask you, how does the knight move?
That's a good question. It generally moves like an L, and sometimes in blitz games it can be very unpredictable.
Thank you, Magnus. Only you could answer my question.
So let's look at how do knights move in Chinese chess. Much like in Western chess, knights, or horses as they're known, move 1 space forward, 1 space diagonal, making a very similar motion to a knight in Western chess. However, the difference is horses cannot hop over other pieces in the same way that knights in Western chess can. So if there was a piece positioned right here, the actual path of travel for this horse would be blocked. The horse would not be able to move to position 2. So if Magnus thinks putting his horse here will be putting the general in check, he's wrong because there's a piece blocking the path of travel for the horse. This does not actually put the general in check. And in fact, moving your horse here would produce a stalemate. Why? Because there's no valid moves left for the opposing general. Remember, their general is stuck because of the flying general rule. This cannon has nowhere it can go, same with this advisor, and that leaves this horse. So if they were to move their horse either here or here, that would unblock the leg of our horse, putting their general in check, meaning moving their horse would be an illegal move. Their horse is currently pinned by our horse. So I don't know what to tell you, Magnus, but I think you're pretty stuck here. So maybe we should give Magnus the 3rd hint. And that's the fact that in Chinese chess, a stalemate is a checkmate. And this is one of the things I love about Chinese chess. It makes so much more sense than Western chess. I mean, seriously, if you get your opponent into a position where they literally cannot move without dying, that's a win in my book. So personally, I think that the Chinese chess rule here is far superior than in Western chess. I understand the arguments on the other side of the aisle, but you can debate that in the comments. So, in fact, moving our horse here doesn't put the general in check, but it puts our opponent in a situation where there's no valid moves, a stalemate in Western chess, but a checkmate in Chinese chess. So let's go ahead and checkmate this general. Checkmate! To level up your Xiangqi skills, like and subscribe for more videos just like this.